to welcome you all to our anger management group. Before we get started, let me first start off with some group rules. You guys already know these because we've been over them a few times, but let's just refresh. Anything discussed in this group will remain confidential. We don't go outside and talk to our friends and family about things that are discussed here. You do not have to answer any questions that make you feel uncomfortable. If I ask you something you don't want to answer it, you can say that you don't want to answer. Every person should be respectful to the other members of this group at all times. That's pretty self-explanatory. We're here to build each other up, not tear each other down. There should not be any gossip or secrecy within this group. And then attendance is necessary. Every person should attend every meeting unless there's an emergency. Okay, so for our first exercise, we're going to do some scenario role play. I'm going to call in a volunteer, and I'll need you guys to, and I'll give you a scenario, and I ask you guys to tell me how you would feel during this scenario, and what kind of solution would you come up for this scenario. So who wants to go first?
I'll volunteer.
Awesome. All right, so your child throws a temper tantrum in the middle of the grocery store. That's your scenario. How would you feel during that?
Kind of feel like I'm losing control of the situation. I feel embarrassed. You know, I guess that'd be, anybody would feel that way though, I would think.
All right, so how should you handle it?
Well, I should approach it and not be afraid of it, and my breathing techniques, and counting backwards from 10, just whatever can get me on the right track, get my mind back straight where I can handle that situation while also not losing control of myself.
Very good. What do you guys think?
I think that's pretty good, but after getting control of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you need to try to divert the child's attention,
Right.
because if you don't, it can totally get out of hand, and I think a child picks up on that and just escalates the situation.
Very good. What about you?
I think I would, I think I could get a little angry at the child, especially if they won't calm down right away,
Mm-hmm.
because you've got all your groceries and you're gonna have to find somebody to watch your groceries, and if you find somebody to do that, then you can take the child out of the grocery store if you need to, and kind of have a quiet cooling down period
Right.
for the child and for yourself as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what you have to do in the store. I think one thing you can do too is to practice at home with the child whenever he starts to throw a tantrum at home. Try to handle it maybe in a little bit better way there so that it doesn't become a habit of throwing tantrums.
That's really good. All right, our next scenario is you find out from a teacher that your child has been lying about not having any math homework. Your child specifically told you that he or she did not have any homework and now they are failing. How do you feel?
I would feel very disappointed in the child, for one thing, because hopefully I raised them to be honest.
Right.
I would say some type of discipline would have to be given in a situation like that.
Mm-hmm.
Taking away privileges, a good parent-teacher meeting,
Right.
and like I said, just taking away privileges, and the child would have, and try to talk to the child that they have to be honest, and lying has consequences.
Absolutely. What do you guys think?
I think if your child's lying about their homework, you're gonna have to do two things. You're gonna have to have accountability plan for them where you can communicate with the teacher and the child daily about homework.
Mhm.
I would be very upset with my child if they lied and they were ending up failing the class, because you can usually get them help for that. But you're gonna have to have communication with the child and the teacher, and to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And I agree. I think there should be some kind of consequence
Mhm.
to the lying, you know, such as losing privileges or
Right.
grounding maybe, or depending on the age of the child or something
Okay.
like that.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think you have to work on getting the child to understand too that going to school is ultimately for them. I mean, they don't need to be to where they're always trying to get out of doing the work and everything, because ultimately they have to know it. I
Mhm.
mean,
Well, I know for me, yeah, I've done that before. I'll be honest with you, I've done that several times. And, you know, it never was any of the long, drawn out conversations over why I need to do this or why I need to do that got me. It was the point of the fact that at some point I realized that my parents didn't quit trying. And then I guess I got to a certain level of maturity to where I realized that they only cared, and at that point they were the only one that cared about my grades. I didn't even care. But when I came to that realization that they were the only ones, that's when I started to try for myself, not for anyone else. And well, I take that back. I kind of did it for my parents as well. So. I think that consistency,
Mhm.
regardless of whether he or she does it again, you have to stay consistent. You can't babysit them to school and watch them do it. I mean, you have to live your own life as well. And but if you be consistent with your parenting and your rules, I think that in most cases I know it was true in my case. It ended up working out.
Alright, so our last scenario is you tell your child to clean their room multiple times. Your child refuses and even argues with you. Who wants to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
Okay.
So wait, how do you feel?
Okay. If my child refuses to do something that I ask them to do, and then they even argue back, I get very frustrated and even angry when they act that way. It's not respectful.
Right.
You know, and you know, the frustration comes. You've got this young person smaller than you, and you really can't make them do. You just can't physically make them. So that's frustrating. So that's how I would feel.
Alright. How should you handle it?
I would, for me, what I would do is I would ask the child to clean the room, and then every time that they told me they weren't gonna do it, I would go in and take something out that they liked and put it up on a high shelf to where they couldn't get it, and I would just remove the privilege of having the nice things in the room,
Okay.
and hopefully they would comply. But I also would be willing to help clean the room if it was a really big mess. I mean, it can be overwhelming to a child and maybe they have trouble getting organized or whatever, but I would also offer to help
Right.
as well. But you know, when they're back talking you, there just seems like there should be some kind of consequence there.
Right.
I don't know, is that too harsh? I don't know, is
I
that?
think
No,
it depends
I-
on the age of the child.
Yeah,
You know, if you have a 5-year-old that didn't clean up their room, it's different than a
Mhm.
16-year-old that didn't
That
clean
is
up their
true.
room.
Absolutely.
I mean, I agree. Actually, I like that point too. But I agree with her point, in the fact that, and I like how she was going to handle it as well as like taking something out of the room. And it's kind of like, well, if you want to keep this in here, you got to keep the mess up too. And it's a little lesson learner, but you know, like she said also, and this is something else I like. she said she would be willing to help if it was like overwhelming. And like, you know, when you're a kid, everything's, you know, compressed into like, I just want to watch cartoons, or I just want to bowl cereal, or, you know, I want to go outside and play. And when you start talking about work, and then you see a mess like, I mean, and that, all I'm saying is that,
They get overwhelmed
yes,
easily.
and just like she said, as a parent, you got to realize the difference
Mhm.
in the fact that you are talking to, you know, your 4 or your 5-year-old, and not a 15, 16-year-old, somebody capable of doing something, and shouldn't be a problem, but it is. And I guess that's the difference. And honestly, that would be a good lesson learner. It's like, hey, well, I'll even help you. And it's like, you know, if you need a hand, don't bother. I mean, you can bother asking. I mean, it's not a big deal, but it still needs to be done.
So what do you guys think about any kind of reward system for when they do clean their room, or when
No.
they do? You don't believe in a reward system?
No, it's everyone's responsibility in a home. Well, again, depending on the age of the child.
Mhm.
But I think at a certain age, it's a responsibility that you carry for the rest of your life, learning how to clean up after yourself and what
Mhm.
has to be done without expecting a reward every time you do it.
I think though that once it's clean, if they maintain it, you know, and you do the daily pickup and whatever,
Mhm.
you could work out a small allowance system, or, you know, or something,
Mhm.
sticker chart for a young child.
What do you guys think would work to keep that behavior going? I mean, to keep it from getting to where they refuse and they argue with you.
What do you think will work?
Yeah.
Probably nothing.
No, I think it's constant maintenance.
I think if you work with the child every day on a little thing,
Yeah. Okay.
let's pick up your toys and put them here before you go to bed.
Right.
When you get up in the morning and you take off your pajamas, lay them on your bed. Like again, it depends on the age. But I think you can just gradually get them in the habit
Right.
of doing certain
Teach
things.
good habits.
Teaching good habits. And that has to start when they're really young. You can't start with a 16-year-old.
I think you have to do it too before it gets totally out of hand. I mean, if you never address it, but once ever 6 weeks and you come
Yeah.
in, it's absolutely. I mean, it is going to take several hours.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're not in the habit of doing it, so now it is a big deal.
Right.
Again,
Right.
it's just good parenting to work with the child and just do things. It's like teaching a child how to feed themselves. You know, they're not going to do it perfectly, but they're going to learn how to do it, and gradually it'll become a habit. Not to spill your milk, not to throw your bowl on the floor, this type of thing. But if it's a 16-year-old, lots of privileges can be taken away.
Okay.
Well, actually, I think after the age of 9 or 10, I think the child should be able to maintain their own room. I'm not saying do their laundry or wax the furniture or this type of thing, but as far as keeping it straight and
Mhm.
that type of thing.
Do you see the pictures on Facebook of those parents that moved their child's entire room out onto the front yard and posted a sign that it was moved out there because they wouldn't clean it?
I think that's a little drastic and embarrassing for the
I think
child.
that was the point. Yeah, that would be a little embarrassing.
I don't know how old was the child.
And a lot of
Teenager.
trouble.
Oh, a teenager? Nah, that's fine.
Well, you probably kind of messed up some already if you
Have to resort to.
if you have to resort to that.
Well,
if
let's
you've allowed your
face it,
16-year-old to get into that shape.
We have had older children, and we know at a certain age they start to become so independent. I don't have to do that,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and that's the one. That's the stage you really have to constantly work through.
Right.
But little ones, gradual.
All right. Well, that's it. I'm really glad that neither one of you guys resorted to yelling or throwing
Well,
things or as a
Maybe
response.
in really drastic situations, but I try to walk out of the room before I do.
That's right. All right. That's it then.
Well, thank you, Miss Therapist.